The gunshot echoed through the ravine just as the ancient cottonwood gave way, its massive trunk crashing down with a sound like thunder, and Catherine Brennan barely had time to scream before the weight pinned her legs to the earth, and darkness swam at the edges of her vision. Pain was the first thing she truly registered, sharp and insistent, radiating from her trapped limbs. The second was the eerie silence that followed the chaos, broken only by the distant sound of hoofbeats fading into the Nebraska wilderness. Her attackers were gone, satisfied they had driven off the stubborn woman who refused to sell her father's land, leaving her for dead in this isolated stretch of forest 5 miles from Wood River. Catherine tried to breathe steadily, fighting the panic that clawed at her chest. The September afternoon sun filtered through the remaining leaves above, casting dappled shadows across her face. She was 22 years old, had survived the loss of both parents to fever 3 years prior, had kept their struggling ranch running against all odds, and now she would die because of 3 men's greed and 1 old tree. She attempted to pull herself free, but white-hot agony shot through her legs and she bit back a cry. The tree had to weigh hundreds of pounds, its gnarled branches creating a cage around her upper body, while the trunk pressed mercilessly across her lower half. Her horse had bolted during the gunfire, and no one knew where she had gone today. She had been checking the fence line on the far eastern boundary of her property, a task she did alone every week. Time became strange. Catherine drifted in and out of consciousness, each wake bringing a fresh wave of pain and the terrible understanding that she was going to die out here. She thought of her mother's face, her father's laugh, the ranch house that would stand empty. She thought of all the things she would never do, never see, never feel. The sun had shifted considerably when she heard it. Hoofbeats, steady and purposeful, growing closer. Hope and fear warred in her chest. What if her attackers had returned to finish the job? What if this was just another hallucination brought on by pain and thirst? But then a voice called out, deep and concerned. "Hello, I heard a shot earlier, saw buzzards circling. Anyone out here?" Catherine tried to call back, but her voice came out as barely more than a croak. She swallowed painfully and tried again. "Here, I am here, please." The hoofbeats quickened, branches snapped, and then a man burst through the underbrush riding a large buckskin stallion. He was tall in the saddle, broad-shouldered, wearing a dusty brown hat and an expression that shifted from alert to horrified in an instant when he saw her situation. He was off his horse before it fully stopped, dropping to his knees beside her. "Jesus Christ, lady, how long have you been trapped?" "Hours," Catherine managed. "Since noon, maybe. 3 men they shot at me, spooked my horse, the tree fell." The words tumbled out disconnected, her thoughts scattered by pain and relief. The man's jaw tightened. His face was sun-weathered and strong-featured, probably in his mid-20s, with dark hair visible beneath his hat and eyes the color of aged whiskey. "I am going to get you out. My name is Yates Lawson. I work for the Double Bar Ranch south of Wood River. What is your name?" "Catherine Brennan." "My ranch, it borders the national forest. They want my land." Yates was already assessing the tree, running his hands along the trunk, testing its weight. "This is bad. This is real bad, but I am going to lift it, and when I do, you need to pull yourself out fast as you can. Do you understand?" Catherine nodded, though she doubted her legs would work. She could barely feel them now, which terrified her more than the pain had. Yates positioned himself at the thickest part of the trunk that lay across her legs. He planted his feet, bent his knees, and wrapped his arms as far around the massive log as he could manage. Catherine saw the muscles in his shoulders bunch beneath his shirt, saw his face set with determination. "On 3, he said through gritted teeth. 1, 2, 3, he lifted. The sound that came from him was primal, a roar of effort that spoke of every ounce of strength he possessed. The tree moved just inches, but it moved. Catherine tried to drag herself backward, but her legs would not cooperate, and pain exploded through her entire body. I cannot move them." She cried out. Yates's arms shook with the strain, but he did not drop the tree. Instead, impossibly, he adjusted his grip and lifted higher, his face gone red with exertion. "Try again. Now." Catherine dug her fingers into the earth and pulled with her arms alone, and this time she felt herself sliding backward. Yates held the tree until she was clear, then let it fall with a tremendous crash. He stumbled backward, chest heaving, sweat pouring down his face, but he did not rest. He was beside her again in seconds, his hands moving carefully over her legs, checking for breaks. Catherine looked down and bit back a sob. Her legs were crushed and bleeding, already swelling, the left one bent at an angle that made her stomach turn. "We need to get you to Dr. Fitzgerald in Wood River," Yates said, his voice steady despite the severity of her injuries. "The town is about 7 miles from here. I can get there in 2 hours on foot carrying you, less if I push hard. My horse cannot take both our weights over rough terrain this long, not safely, but I can carry you." 7 miles, Catherine's voice broke. "You cannot possibly carry me that far." Yates was already shrugging out of his riding coat, folding it carefully. "Madam, I just lifted a tree that probably weighs 3 times what you do. I can carry you to town." He slid one arm beneath her shoulders, the other under her knees, mindful of her injuries. "This is going to hurt. I am sorry." He lifted her as gently as possible, but Catherine still cried out as her damaged legs shifted. Yates held her against his chest, adjusting his grip until he found a position that seemed to cause her the least pain. She was forced to wrap her arms around his neck for stability, her face pressed close to his shoulder. "I've got you," he murmured. "Just hold on." He started walking, each step measured and careful. His horse followed behind, reins dragging. Catherine tried to stay conscious, tried not to think about the pain, focusing instead on the steady rhythm of his heartbeat against her ear, the warmth of his body, the sheer, impossible strength it took to do what he was doing. They moved through the forest in the fading afternoon light. Yates did not speak much at first, saving his breath for the monumental task, but Catherine found herself studying his face. There was something immensely gentle in how he held her despite his obvious physical power, something protective in the set of his jaw. When branches hung low, he ducked and turned to shield her from them. When the terrain grew rough, he slowed, making sure each footfall was secure before taking the next. After what might have been half an hour, Catherine whispered, "You should rest." "Not yet," Yates replied. His breathing was labored but steady. "We have good light for another hour. I want to cover as much ground as possible before dark." "Why were you out here?" she asked, desperate for something to focus on besides the pain. "Tracking strays," Yates said. "Had a fence break after that storm last week. Been finding cattle scattered from here to Kingdom Come." He paused to navigate around a fallen log. "Heard that gunshot and figured someone might be hunting illegal on double bar land or worse, causing trouble. Found you instead." "Lucky for me," Catherine breathed. "Seems like it was not luck at all, madam. Seems like you were right where you were supposed to be so I could find you." Despite everything, Catherine felt something warm kindle in her chest at those words. She let her head rest more fully against his shoulder, breathing in the scent of leather and sage and honest sweat. "You can call me Catherine." "Catherine," he repeated, and her name sounded different in his rough voice. "Pretty name. You said men did this to you, deliberately." "They have been trying to force me to sell my land for 6 months. The Garrett brothers and their cousin. My property has water rights they want, and a stretch that would connect their ranch to the main road. I keep refusing. She felt anger surge through the pain. Today they found me alone and decided to make their point clear. Yates's arms tightened fractionally around her, his jaw clenching. The Garretts, I know them. Mean sons of bitches, pardon my language. They run that spread north of town, always skirting the edge of legal. You been to the sheriff? Sheriff Cook is in their pocket, Catherine said bitterly. Takes money to look the other way. I have got no proof of anything, and now I suppose they will say I had an accident. They did not count on me finding you, Yates said quietly. They did not count on you surviving. And I swear to you, Catherine, they will answer for this. The determination in his voice made her believe him. They fell into silence again as he pushed onward through the wilderness. The sun sank lower, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Catherine drifted, the combination of pain and exhaustion pulling her under, but every time she started to slip away entirely, she felt Yates adjust his hold on her, felt him murmur her name to call her back. "Stay with me, Catherine," he said when the darkness crept close. "Stay awake. Talk to me. Tell me about your ranch." She forced her eyes open. "It is small. 200 acres. My father built the house himself, spent 3 years on it. We run about 50 head of cattle, some horses. It is not much, but it is mine. It is all I have left of them. Your parents, dead 3 years now. Fever took them within a week of each other. I was 19. Catherine swallowed hard. Everyone said I should sell, that a woman alone could not manage a ranch, but I was not going to let their life's work disappear. Stubborn, Yates observed, but there was approval in his tone. I respect that. Takes grit to hold on to something when the whole world is trying to take it from you. What about you? Catherine asked. You said you work for the Double Bar. 5 years now, Yates confirmed. He paused to rest for a moment, leaning against a tree but not setting her down. Came up from Texas after my own family's spread went under. Drought killed us. My father drank himself to death after we lost everything, and my mother went to live with her sister in St. Louis. I headed north looking for work, found it with old man Patterson at the Double Bar. He is fair, pays decent, does not work his men to death. You are not just a ranch hand, Catherine said. The way he carried himself, the way he spoke, suggested education and bearing beyond typical cowboy work. Yates smiled slightly. You are observant, even half dead. My father had ambitions once. Made sure I could read and write and do sums. But ambitious does not pay bills when the rain will not fall. I am what I am now, a working man. Honest labor suits me fine. Full darkness had fallen by the time they reached the edge of the forest. Stars emerged overhead, bright and cold. Yates had been walking for nearly 2 hours, and Catherine could feel the tremor in his arms now, the strain in his breathing. But he did not slow, did not suggest stopping. How much further? She whispered. We have covered maybe 4 miles. 3 more to town. Yates shifted his grip slightly, redistributing her weight. I can make it. We are on open ground now, easier walking. Catherine looked up at his face in the starlight and saw the determined set of his features, the sweat that dampened his hair despite the cooling night air. This man, this stranger, was destroying himself to save her life. The realization moved through her like warmth, like something profound and unnameable. Why? She asked softly. Why are you doing this? You do not know me. Yates looked down at her, and in the darkness his eyes were shadowed but intense. Because you needed help and I was there to give it. Because leaving you would have been a kind of death to my own soul. Because some things you do not question, you just do them. He paused. Because from the moment I saw you trapped under that tree, fighting to stay alive, I knew I would walk through hellfire if that was what it took to save you. Catherine's breath caught. The raw honesty in his words struck something deep within her. You do not even know me, she repeated, but this time it was a wonder, not a question. Maybe I do not know your history or your favorite meal or what makes you laugh, Yates said. But I know you are brave. I know you are a fighter. I know the Garretts tried to break you and failed. That is enough for me to know I am carrying someone worth saving. Tears slipped down Catherine's cheeks. She could not remember the last time anyone had spoken to her with such regard, such respect. The years since her parents' deaths had been hard and lonely, filled with men who saw her as either weak and in need of a husband to manage her affairs, or as an obstacle to be removed. Yates saw her as simply human and worth the monumental effort he was expending. They crossed through grazing land, the prairie grass whispering around Yates's boots. Catherine watched his face in profile, the strong line of his jaw, the way his lips pressed together in concentration. He was handsome, she realized, but it was more than that. There was something fundamentally good in him, something solid and real that called to the lonely, guarded places in her heart. "Tell me something about yourself," Catherine said, needing to keep him talking to help him stay focused through what had to be agonizing fatigue. "Something true." Yates was quiet for a moment, his steps never faltering. "I am 25 years old. My given name is Yates Lawrence Lawson, named for my grandfathers. I like my coffee black, my whiskey neat, and my sky so big you can see forever. I play passable guitar and I cannot carry a tune to save my life. I have been in love once when I was 18 with a girl who married a banker instead of a rancher's son. That hurt for a while, but I got over it." He glanced down at her. "I do not make friends easy, but when I do, I am loyal unto death, and I have never in my entire life met a woman like you." Catherine's heart hammered in her chest. "You have known me for 3 hours. 3 hours that changed everything," Yates said simply. They crested a low hill and Catherine saw lights in the distance. Wood River, small and scattered but unmistakably civilization. Relief flooded through her so intensely she felt dizzy. "Almost there," Yates murmured, but his voice was strained now, his breathing harsh. "Just another mile. Hold on, Catherine." That last mile was the longest. Catherine could feel Yates struggling now, his steps less steady, his arms trembling with sustained effort. She had no idea how he was still moving, what reserves of strength he was drawing on. When he stumbled for the first time, she cried out in fear. "I am all right," he gasped. "Just a hole." "I am all right." But he was not all right. He was at the absolute end of his endurance, held upright by will alone. Catherine wanted to tell him to put her down, to rest, but she knew if he stopped now he might not be able to start again, and they were so close. The lights of Wood River grew closer. Dogs barked. A door slammed somewhere. They passed the first outlying house, then another. A woman hanging laundry in the evening air saw them and screamed. "Doctor! Someone fetch Dr. Fitzgerald, injured woman." People emerged from houses, running toward them. Yates kept walking, his eyes fixed on the white 2-story building at the center of town that served as both the doctor's office and residence. Catherine saw the physician himself step onto the porch, lamplight spilling around him. "Bring her inside." Dr. Fitzgerald called. "Quickly now." Yates climbed the porch steps through sheer determination and carried Catherine through the door into a clean, lamp-lit examination room. Only when he reached the padded table did he finally, carefully, lower her down. Catherine cried out as her legs made contact with the surface, but she reached for Yates even through the pain. "You did it," she gasped. "You carried me all the way." Yates swayed on his feet, his face gray with exhaustion. "Had to," he said simply. Then his knees buckled and he collapsed. Dr. Fitzgerald caught him before he hit the floor, calling for his assistant. Together they maneuvered Yates into a chair while Catherine tried to sit up, panic overriding her own agony. "He is all right." the doctor assured her, pushing her gently back down. Just exhausted. Miss, what happened to you? Through waves of pain, Catherine explained. The doctor examined her legs with practiced hands, his expression growing more concerned. Multiple fractures in the left leg, severe crushing injuries to both, possible internal damage. Young man, he addressed Yates, who was gulping water from a cup the assistant had brought, you saved this woman's life. Another few hours under that tree and she would have died from shock or internal bleeding. Yates just nodded, unable to speak yet. Is she going to lose her legs? Someone asked from the doorway, and Catherine saw that half the town seemed to have gathered outside, craning to see. I do not know yet, Dr. Fitzgerald said honestly. We need to set these bones, stop the bleeding, and pray infection does not set in. It will be a long night. He looked at Catherine with kind but serious eyes. I will not lie to you, Miss Brennan. This will be painful and recovery will be difficult. But you are young and strong and you have a fighter's spirit. That counts for more than you might think. Catherine nodded, tears streaming down her face. Do what you must. The doctor prepared his instruments while his assistant brought laudanum to dull the pain. Before Catherine drank it, she reached out toward where Yates sat slumped in the chair, and he immediately rose on shaking legs to take her hand. Thank you, she whispered. For my life. Yates squeezed her fingers gently. I will be right here, he said. The whole time. You are not alone. The laudanum took effect quickly, pulling Catherine into a twilight state where pain became distant and the world turned soft. She was aware of the doctor working, of Yates's hand never leaving hers, of voices murmuring. Time became elastic and strange. When she surfaced again, the night had deepened and her legs were splinted and bandaged, elevated on pillows. Dr. Fitzgerald was washing his hands. The bones are set, he told her. I have done all I can for tonight. You will stay here for at least a week so I can monitor for infection and complications. Your legs should heal, though the left one was badly damaged. You may walk with a limp permanently. But I will walk, Catherine said, clinging to that certainty. If the bones heal properly and infection does not set in, yes, you will walk. Catherine looked around the room and found Yates asleep in the chair beside her bed, his hand still loosely holding hers, his head tipped back against the wall. Even in sleep, his face showed the strain of what he had done, shadows under his eyes, lines of exhaustion bracketing his mouth. He refused to leave, the doctor said softly. I told him he should go rest properly, but he insisted on staying. Said he promised you that you would not be alone. Something in Catherine's chest cracked open, some carefully guarded wall she had built around her heart crumbling. She studied Yates's sleeping face, this man who had appeared like something out of a dream and saved her in the most literal sense possible. I do not even know him, she whispered. Sometimes the most important people come into our lives in the most unexpected ways, Dr. Fitzgerald said. He pulled a blanket over Catherine. Sleep now. Healing begins with rest. Catherine slept, and when she woke in the gray light of early morning, Yates was still there. His eyes were open now, watching her with an expression she could not quite name. Morning, he said quietly. You stayed all night, said I would. Catherine felt tears prick her eyes again. You should go home, rest properly. You have done so much already. Yates shifted forward in his chair, wincing as stiff muscles protested. Catherine, those men who hurt you are still out there. Until we figure out what to do about them, until I know you are safe, I am not going anywhere. His voice was gentle but implacable. If that is all right with you. What could she say to that? Catherine nodded, overwhelmed by gratitude and something deeper, something that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. Dr. Fitzgerald brought them breakfast and examined Catherine's legs. The swelling had increased overnight, but there were no signs of infection yet. "So far, so good," he pronounced. "But we are not out of danger. The next few days are critical." Those next few days fell into a strange rhythm. Yates left only to tend his horse and retrieve fresh clothes from the bunkhouse at the double bar. He explained the situation to his foreman, who agreed to give him leave to stay in town. Then he returned to Catherine's side and barely left it. They talked for hours, filling the long days. Catherine learned about Yates's childhood in Texas, about the father who had been both brilliant and broken, about the mother who had been kind but overwhelmed. She learned about his love of horses, his skill with a rope, his dream of someday having a small ranch of his own where he could work for himself. Yates learned about Catherine's fiercely independent spirit, born from watching her mother stand beside her father as an equal partner in building their ranch. He learned about her father teaching her to ride and shoot and manage accounts, about the devastation of losing them both and the determination to honor their legacy. He learned about her loneliness, the weight of carrying everything alone. On the third day, the sheriff finally came. Sheriff Cook was a heavy-set man with calculating eyes, and Catherine felt her stomach turn when he walked into the room. "Miss Brennan," he said with false concern, "heard about your accident. Terrible thing." "It was not an accident," Catherine said coldly. "The Garrett brothers and their cousin attacked me, tried to kill me. They shot at me, caused my horse to bolt, and I was trapped under a fallen tree." The sheriff's expression did not change. "That is a serious accusation. You have proof." "I was there. I know what happened." "The Garretts say they were in town all day. Plenty of witnesses placed them at the saloon." "They are lying," Catherine said through gritted teeth. Sheriff Cook shrugged. "Without proof, Miss Brennan, there is not much I can do. Could be you were out riding, the tree fell naturally, and in your pain you became confused about what happened." Yates had been silent until now, standing by the window. He turned, and there was something dangerous in his movement. "Are you calling her a liar, Sheriff?" Cook's eyes narrowed. "I am saying trauma can confuse memories, boy. Best you stay out of matters that do not concern you." "It concerns me when I find a woman dying in the wilderness because 3 men decided her life was worth less than a piece of land," Yates said, his voice low and hard. "It concerns me when the law chooses not to see what is right in front of it." "You watch your tone with me," the sheriff warned. "Or what? You will look the other way when someone tries to kill me too." Yates took a step forward. "Everyone in this county knows you take money from the Garretts. Everyone knows you are corrupt. But let me make something real clear to you, Sheriff. Catherine Brennan is under my protection now. Anyone who tries to hurt her again will answer to me, and I do not care what badge you wear or what friends you have. You understand?" The room went silent. Dr. Fitzgerald, who had been changing bandages, froze. Catherine stared at Yates with her heart hammering. The sheriff's face went red, then white. "That sounds like a threat," Cook said. "It is a promise," Yates replied. The sheriff left shortly after, slamming the door behind him. Dr. Fitzgerald whistled low. "Son, you just made a powerful enemy." "I made that enemy when I decided to tell the truth," Yates said. He returned to Catherine's bedside, and she saw his hands were shaking slightly with suppressed rage. "I am sorry if I overstepped." "You did not," Catherine said softly. "You did not at all." That night, as lamplight flickered and the town settled into quiet, Catherine reached for Yates's hand. He took it immediately, his thumb stroking over her knuckles in a gesture that had become familiar. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Really? You have saved my life, you have stayed with me, you have made an enemy of the sheriff. Why?" Yates was quiet for a long moment. "You want the honest truth, always." "Because when I saw you trapped under that tree, something in me recognized something in you. Like I had been walking around all my life with a piece missing, and there you were." He met her eyes, and in the lamplight his expression was naked and vulnerable. "I know it is crazy. I know we barely know each other. But Catherine, I cannot shake the feeling that I was meant to find you that day. That everything I have been through, everywhere I have wandered, it was all leading me to that exact moment in that exact place." Catherine's breath caught. "I feel it too," she confessed. "I have been so alone for so long, and then you appeared and you saved me and you stayed. You stayed, Yates." "No one has stayed. I am staying now," he said fiercely, "for as long as you will have me. What if that is forever?" The words escaped before Catherine could stop them, bold and terrifying. Yates smiled, and it transformed his face. "Then I guess I am staying forever." He leaned forward and pressed his lips to her forehead, gentle and reverent, and Catherine closed her eyes against the wave of emotion that threatened to drown her. This was happening too fast. Some rational part of her mind insisted. You could not fall in love with someone in a matter of days. But her heart knew differently. Her heart knew that some connections transcended time and logic, that some souls recognized each other instantly, that what she felt for Yates Lawson was as real and solid as the ground beneath them. By the end of the week, Catherine was able to sit up with help, though her legs remained immobilized. Dr. Fitzgerald was pleased with her progress, though he cautioned that full healing would take months. The question of where she would go during recovery loomed large. "Your ranch is too isolated," the doctor said. "You need someone to care for you, and the work of running the property is beyond your capability right now." "I could hire someone," Catherine said, but her heart sank. She had no money for hired help, and the ranch could not run itself. "I will go," Yates said immediately. "I will work her ranch, tend her stock, make sure everything holds together until she is on her feet again." Dr. Fitzgerald raised an eyebrow. "That would be highly irregular, a single man and woman living alone." "My foreman's wife could stay with us as chaperone," Yates said. "Martha Patterson. She is a decent woman and she knows about healing. I already talked to old man Patterson and he said I could take leave as long as necessary." "You talked to your boss about me?" Catherine asked. "I told him I found a woman who needed help and I was not abandoning her to wolves, human or otherwise," Yates said simply. "He understood. He told me to do what was right. So it was decided." 2 weeks after her injury, Catherine was carefully transported to her ranch in the back of a wagon padded with blankets, Yates driving and Martha Patterson beside her. The older woman had agreed immediately when Yates explained the situation, and Catherine found herself grateful for the cheerful, no-nonsense presence. The ranch looked exactly as she had left it, but different somehow. Smaller, maybe, or perhaps she was just seeing it through new eyes. Yates carried her inside to the bedroom she indicated, settling her on the bed with exquisite care. Martha bustled about, opening windows and assessing what needed cleaning. "Well, this is a nice, solid house," Martha pronounced. "Your father built good. I will get things in order while you rest." Yates touched Catherine's shoulder gently. "I am going to check your stock and see what needs doing. I will be back before dark." Catherine watched him go, this man who had become her entire world in the span of 2 weeks. Martha, hanging fresh curtains, caught her expression and smiled knowingly. "That boy is smitten," she said. "Never seen anything like it, talks about nothing but you when he is at the ranch." Catherine felt heat rise in her cheeks. "He saved my life." "Honey, he did more than that. He gave you his heart." Martha patted her hand. "Question is, what are you going to do with it?" "What indeed?" Catherine spent the following days watching Yates work her ranch with the same determined intensity he brought to everything. He was up before dawn, tending the cattle and horses, mending fences, repairing the barn roof that had been leaking. He worked until dark, then came in dusty and exhausted to eat the dinner Martha prepared, sitting at Catherine's bedside to tell her about everything he had done that day. "Your herd is in good shape," he reported one evening. "About 48 head by my count. You were missing 2, but I found them in the far pasture. Your breeding stock is solid. With careful management, you could grow this operation considerably." Catherine listened to him talk about her ranch with the ease of someone who understood the work, who respected it. Most men she knew would have dismissed her efforts, would have seen it as a burden they were forced to carry. Yates saw it as hers, something valuable she had built, and he was honored to help protect it. As the weeks passed and Catherine's legs slowly healed, she began to move around more. First sitting in a chair by the window, then standing with support, then taking halting steps with Yates on one side and a crutch on the other. Every achievement, no matter how small, he celebrated like a victory. "You are walking," he said in wonder the first time she made it across the room. "Catherine, you are walking." She was crying and laughing at the same time, leaning heavily on him. "Because of you, all of this, everything is because of you." Yates cupped her face in his work-roughened hands, his eyes bright. "No, this is because you refused to quit, because you fought. I just helped clear the path." The first time he kissed her, it was late October and the leaves were falling gold outside the window. Catherine had been standing at the stove, insisting on making coffee herself despite Martha's protests that she should rest. Yates came in from evening chores, stopped in the doorway and just watched her. "What?" Catherine asked, suddenly self-conscious. "You are beautiful," he said quietly. "Standing there in the lamplight, getting stronger every day. You are the most beautiful thing I have ever seen." Catherine's heart stuttered. She had never thought of herself as beautiful. Capable, stubborn, strong, yes. But beautiful. That was for other women, softer women. Yates crossed the room slowly, giving her time to turn away if she wanted. Catherine did not turn away. She tipped her face up as he reached her, and when his lips met hers, it was like coming home to a place she had never been but had always longed for. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, a question being asked. Catherine answered by sliding her hands up to his shoulders, pulling him closer. Yates made a sound low in his throat and deepened the kiss, one hand tangling in her hair, the other settling at her waist. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Yates rested his forehead against hers. "I love you," he said. "I know it is fast. I know people will say it is too soon, but I love you, Catherine Brennan. I think I have loved you since I saw you trapped under that tree, refusing to give up." "I love you too," Catherine whispered. "I have been trying not to, trying to be sensible, but I cannot help it. You have become everything to me." Yates kissed her again, harder this time, and Catherine felt the world narrow to just this, just him, just the two of them and the impossible, wonderful thing growing between them. Martha cleared her throat from the doorway, a smile playing on her lips. "I think I will take myself for a walk and check on something in the barn that definitely needs checking." They both laughed, and Yates pulled Catherine into an embrace, just holding her. "Marry me," he said against her hair. "I know I do not have much to offer. I am a ranch hand with some savings and a good horse. But I will work every day of my life to make you happy. I will protect you and your land. I will be your partner in all things. Please, Catherine, marry me." Catherine pulled back to look at his face, seeing the hope and fear there, the vulnerability of a man offering everything he was. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes, Yates, I will marry you." They were married in November in the small church in Wood River, with Dr. Fitzgerald giving Catherine away and Martha standing up with her. The whole town turned out, drawn by the romantic story of the cowboy who carried a woman 7 miles to save her life. Catherine wore her mother's wedding dress, altered to fit, and walked down the aisle on Yates's arm, her limp barely noticeable. When the preacher pronounced them man and wife, Yates kissed her like she was the most precious thing in the world, and the congregation cheered. But their happiness was shadowed by the knowledge that the Garrett brothers were still out there, still wanted her land. 2 days after the wedding, as Catherine and Yates were settling into their new life together, 3 riders appeared at the ranch. Yates saw them first, coming up the road in the afternoon light. He tensed, his hand moving to the rifle he now kept near. "Catherine, get inside." She looked out the window and her blood ran cold. The Garrett brothers and their cousin, bold as brass, riding onto her property. Rage flooded through her, sharp and hot. "This is my land," she said. "I am not hiding." Yates looked torn, then nodded. "Together then, but you stay behind me." They walked out onto the porch as the riders approached. The Garretts were big men, rough-featured and mean-eyed. The one in front, the eldest, smiled when he saw Catherine. "Well now," he drawled. "Heard you survived your accident, Miss Brennan, or should I say Mrs. Lawson now, congratulations on your wedding. What do you want?" Yates's voice was hard as stone. "Just checking on our neighbor," the second brother said. "Making sure she is recovering all right. That was a nasty fall you had." "It was not a fall," Catherine said clearly. "You shot at me. You tried to kill me." The eldest brother, Jack Garrett, shrugged. "That is a hell of an accusation." "Got any proof?" "I am proof," Catherine said. "I was there." "Word against word," the cousin said. "And we got witnesses who say we were in town that day." "Paid witnesses," Yates said. "Lying witnesses." Jack Garrett's eyes narrowed. "You want to be careful, boy. You might be married to her now, but that does not make you bulletproof." Yates took a single step forward, and there was something in his bearing that made all 3 men tense. "Neither are you," he said quietly. "And I am not a boy. I am the man who will kill you if you ever threaten my wife again." The standoff stretched, tension thick enough to choke on. Finally, Jack Garrett laughed, but it sounded forced. "Just came to make one last offer. $10,000 for this property. That is more than fair." "This land is not for sale," Catherine said. "Not now, not ever. And if you set foot on it again without invitation, I will shoot you myself." The Garretts exchanged looks. "You are making a mistake," Jack said. "A big one." "The only mistake is yours, thinking you can terrorize people and get away with it," Yates replied. "Now get off our land." The 3 men turned their horses and rode away, but not before Jack Garrett called back. "This is not over." Catherine was shaking as they watched the riders.